My name is Lisa Andian, and I'm with Blackboard, and I'll be talking today about Ally for websites. So if you have questions in the middle of my presentations, please feel free to raise your hand and ask me. I certainly don't mind having a conversation. We are in this room until 10:30, but they told me we can go over a little bit. So if you have questions that go beyond the time, I think we're going to be all right. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of setup around what Ally for Web does, and then we'll jump into the environment and take a look at the demo to see how it does what it's supposed to do. So when we're talking about your public-facing website, right, the idea is your first impression is really important. So if that public-facing website has content in it that is not accessible and people need to use it and access it, that becomes a barrier to them being able to access the content on your website, which means that first impression is not as good as it could be, right? So that's where Ally for Websites comes in, around web content becoming more accessible. And if you come to my session later today, this afternoon at 11:10 in the room next door, we'll talk about the same concept around the content being uploaded in the learning management system in Blackboard Learn, where we teach your courses online. So that the approach you'll see is very consistent. What we do for your end users on your public-facing website and what we do inside the learning management system, the approach is the same. It looks and feels the same. So right now today, Ally for Web does two things for institutions. The first is it gives you a report that shows you every domain at your school's website, right? Whether it's departmental courses, instructors that are creating their own websites, whether it's individual units and departments or individual schools creating their own websites, scanning all of that content and providing you a report that tells you what are the issues, where are they, and what is the accessibility score around those issues, so that you know at a glance exactly what's happening across your entire public-facing website, so that there's no guesswork around what needs to be fixed and remediated for accessibility. It's the directory map, if you will, when you get into a mall to figure out where you want to go and how you want to get there. The second thing that it does is you get, for your end users, right, so now from your public-facing website, alternative formats for the content that's uploaded there. So if somebody has uploaded a scanned PDF, well, if you understand anything about accessibility, you know that scanned PDF is not accessible to somebody using a screen reader, because the screen reader looks like a giant image and you can't tell that there's text on the screen. So that's one problem. If you have documents that are missing alternate tags for descriptions for images, if you have documents that are missing headers, if they're missing footers, if they're missing that information that screen readers use to be able to tell a user what's on the page and how to navigate it, all those things. This will provide alternative formats that have those things already embedded in them, right? And I'll show you what that looks like when we get to the demo. So how is this done on the back end? So Ally scrubs the websites, and it does so based on an accessibility checklist that is based on WCAG 2.0 AA guidelines. Actually, I think it's 2.1 now. Let me update that slide. So what the accessibility report shows us is an overall view of the environment, like I discussed earlier. Again, giving you insight into what is the accessibility around the content uploaded, what does it look like, what's the score, right? Where is it located? Then you can get really specific into individual domains. So are we looking at a particular college's math department instructor's website, right? It gets that granular and that detailed. And it will tell you how many documents of that particular offending type live on that website, okay? So it's a really nice map of where you are today. You can also search by issue severity, because Ally will divide it up into most severe issues, such as a scanned PDF, which is basically unusable, or something simple like there's a contrast issue, and you can determine your approach to remediation based on the severity of the issue. Right? And then finally, to your end users from the public-facing website, you get those alternative formats. Okay? So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at our environment. So I'm actually, something that I forgot to pull up for me here. Give me just a quick second while I copy and paste this. All right. So let's go ahead and start with the accessibility report that your institutions see. We're going to kind of start from the back end a little bit. To be able to understand what you need to remediate, what your long-term accessibility plan needs to be on your public-facing website, you need to be able to see what's happening today, right? Which is really hard to do without a tool like Ally in the back end being able to show you what's going on. So in this case, what we're looking at here is your overall accessibility score by month. You could also look at it by year if you wanted to. As you make changes, you can see how the score improves or not, right? Based on how you fix documents that are the offending issues. all the domains on this particular demo website, so there's 83, and of those domains, as I scroll through my color wheel of awesomeness, I can see that there's 1,800 PDFs, there's some images here, Word documents, and then other document files that are listed here. This comprises all the stuff uploaded on all the domains in this particular school's website. What the accessibility score is, right, according to Ally, and then here's that severity issue I discussed, right? So you could toggle between severe issues, major issues, or just minor issues. So if I start with, say, something like the most severe issues, the ones that Ally's identified is that there's a document that's scanned but doesn't have OCR, optical character recognition. So that's that scanned, chapter in a book that is not available in print any other way, and the only way the instructor could get it into the website was by scanning it as an image, right? Well, that's not at all accessible because the screen reader can't make heads or tails out of it. It's also not a good usable document if you're trying to look at it on a phone because it's not responsive. It won't scale appropriately. Question?
You're showing numbers like from 0 to 100. Is 100
100
or 100 good?
100's good. So the different colors next to the little dials will also tell you what the accessibility score is. So orange is kind of okay, red is pretty severe, green is you're doing pretty good. So green is 70 to 100, right? It might mean that there are still some small issues to fix, but overall you've hit a lot of the big stuff. So for example, I think I pulled up things that were scanned. So this will tell you there's 88 documents of this type on this particular website that's part of the business law school, right? So if I wanted to get more granular, I can go ahead and click on that domain, and then I can see every one of those 88 individual documents, right? And I can see their individual accessibility score, which, as you can see here, because they're scanned, is pretty abysmal. Yes?
I don't want to jump ahead, but does this just check documents, or does it check like embedded videos?
So right now it's looking at documents that are uploaded. Part of what Ally is working on in its long-term roadmap is being able to check videos. So today it will tell you that a video is missing captions. Long-term is to be able to embed those captions into the environment as well. So there's a really robust roadmap for this product. It's really exciting to be able to improve accessibility. So accessibility is a long-term goal, right? There is no magic wand that you can wave that can automatically make everything 100% accessible. What Ally gives you is a starting point and a way to automatically improve the accessibility of what's there today as you come up with a plan as an individual institution or a group of institutions for how you want to remediate the issues moving forward, whether that's making people aware, web designers, faculty, whoever's uploading content, helping them step-by-step instructions along the way, how to fix that content, working with your accessibility services, to reach out for the more complicated things. Whatever the plan is, Ally gives you a really good first stab at being proactive in your environment. So rather than waiting for someone to come to you and say, this is not accessible, we have a real problem, you can say, we know what's not accessible, we've got a plan to remediate it, here's the long-term vision for how we're going to get there, right?
Is Ally offered as an API, as an open source?
It's not an open source API, but it is LMS agnostic. So if, no matter what learning management system you're running, Ally will work in your environment for you. Well, no matter, but we work with the big ones, right? Obviously learn first.
Yeah, sounds good.
But, well, this one is for the web, right? But when you're looking at inside the learning management system, that's agnostic. But for the web, it's any website. It doesn't have to necessarily be individual. Okay, so let me go back up real quick. Let's take a look at back to domains. Try again. Okay, back to my report. All right, so what's really nice about that for, again, institutions, staff and institutions that are tasked with coming up with an accessibility plan, having what I call a map to where you are and where you want to go is invaluable. Because otherwise, how would you have any idea? How would you be able to scrub hundreds of potential offshoots from all the different domains attached to your made web page to figure out where this content lives and what its issues are? Right? Which if you don't know, you can't possibly remediate. So that was the overview tab. If I go to the domains tab and I want to start from there, so maybe I'm the web accessibility expert for a particular college or a particular department in a college, and I just want to see our web pages. I would start at this domains page, and then I could do a search, right? So if I want to look for, say, the defense courses or the English courses or whatever it happens to be, I can just zero in on those that are pertinent to me. So that top one's got 1,600 documents that have the same issue. I can zero in exactly where I need to and go reach out to whoever uploaded those documents, whether they're faculty or staff, and help them remediate. Okay? So lots of ways to get at the issue to be able to begin fixing the problems overall and over time, right? Accessibility is it's a marathon, right? This is not a sprint, right? It's something that we're in for it for the long haul, that we have to always be aware of and always be trying to get it in the right format to begin with, so that we don't have to go backwards and do a lot of fixes, but that's part of a process. So that's the institution report. What I've pulled up here is a sample demo website that might be a website at any one of your domains at your different schools, right? So the options that Ally provides at this point is the different views in terms of the kind of ribbon that end users can see, and you can set this up at your institution. So right now I have the small ribbon. I can change it to the large ribbon. See how that got bigger on the right-hand side? Or I can access it as a bottom bar, which now it appears down here at the bottom, right? This is what, and I'm going to go back to the small ribbon, this is what will give us access to those alternative formats. So let me just show you what's on this website here. What we've done is thrown up a bunch of different kinds of documents to give you a sense of what these links look like. So I have a scanned, not OCR'd document version, right? So this is just the original that's sitting on the website. Note first how annoyingly sideways it is. If you try to pull this up on a phone, right, just no. The minute you try to turn it, it reversed itself again. How many of you have gone through that? Yeah, it's good times. So this is one, not accessible, also not responsive, pretty much unusable and really annoying to deal with. So, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Hold on, I need that website back. Sorry about that. So if I wanted then to see a better version of that document, here's where Ally comes in. So all I do is click on that little A for Ally download, and now it pulls up for me this entire website, right? So first of all, the main website, I get a document that lets me look at it as a semantic HTML, or, sorry, as electronic braille, audio, or a translated version of the whole main website if I needed that. Or if I want to look at any of the documents that are attached here on this particular website, sorry, migrating this website, then I can do that. So let's go find that scanned OCR thing. Now I have a lot of different options for how I could view this particular document. The first is Ally will inject some fixes and create an OCR version of that document for us. So you remember that sideways thing that we saw? If I go ahead and choose the OCR PDF version, give it a minute to create, and I can open it. You're going to see how much better that experience is as soon as Explorer decides to load. So not only is it going to be OCR'd, meaning, hold on, let me tell it not to bother with this. So now I can highlight, I can copy and paste, which I couldn't do before when it was scanned, because again, it's just a giant image. You can't search a scanned document, you can't highlight and copy and paste. You really can't do anything, and it was sideways, so super annoying to begin with. This is now OCR, meaning that a screen reader will recognize that there are characters on the screen and be able to read it, so to speak, to the user. But I can also minimize it, and it's going to be in a better format. Okay, let me go ahead and close that for a second and come back to Ally and look at one of the other formats for that same document. So there's that scanned OCR problem. So maybe I want to look at it on my phone instead, right? Go ahead and open it this way. Or if I'm just pulling it up on my browser, if I want to look at it on my browser on my phone, can I go ahead and, okay, there we go. I just need to scroll down a little. So this is a much better experience. This is going to have the appropriate headings and tags for a screen reader to read. And then as I resize it to mimic, say, what I might have, if the browser will let me resize it. Come on, there we go. You see how it sizes appropriately for the real estate on whatever screen I'm using? That's a much more responsive and better experience for your end users. So part of what Ally is really looking to do is address accessibility of documentations for users that need an accommodation, but also from the standpoint of inclusivity, meaning making it better for everybody that comes to the environment from the beginning, rather than just addressing issues as they pop up, make it more available for everybody who needs to use it. So if say you need to look at something on the website and you're commuting to campus, right? Whether you're faculty or student, and you're either on a bus or a train or in a car or driving, and you can't really be looking at a website. Maybe you want to be listening to an audio version of the file so that you can be up to speed before you get to campus. One of these alternative formats, the audio format, so let's look at that same OCR, right? We'll fit that bill, because now you can listen to it while you're coming to campus or while you're doing something else, or in your morning run or whatever it is you do to move more, right? That's what they tell us, move more. So that's what's really nice about the Ally solution is while you're working on a plan to remediate the issues that you have all over your websites, you can be offering your end users alternative formats. They can get them what they need in the format that they need off the get-go, right? So that's what I meant when I said in an automated fashion, you can begin addressing a lot of the accessibility issues that you have out the gate in, I think, a really good way, while you come up with a better overall long-term plan, because accessibility is a process. It's not a magic wand sort of enterprise. So I've got a few minutes. I will pause and see if there are questions.
Can you just click on the translated version?
Sure. All right, so there are lots of language translation options here. So if your end users, again, for them, English is not a first language, and they want to access the document in another version, they certainly can. So while I worked for Blackboard, I came from higher ed, and I used to teach Spanish. So the first thing I did, being who I am, is I looked at the Spanish version, and I had to say I was pretty impressed with the translation. I just downloaded. I found one or two tweaks that I would make, but that's because I'm a speaker of the language and I teach it, and I wanted to see how good is this. And I think no matter what language you find, there will be little things that you would have translated differently, right? That's why translation is an art. It's going to take a minute to prep, but making that option available to your end users also says we understand that people coming to our website come from a diverse background, and we want to be proactive in providing them access in the way that they're most comfortable with. So while this is loading and thinking, Ally lives in the cloud. So once you upload your documents and somebody calls an alternative version, it caches that alternative version in the cloud so that the next time someone comes and they ask for that particular version, it won't take this long to load. So the ones that take the longest are the translation and the audio versions, because they can be rather large files. But once somebody makes that call and asks for it, thereafter it comes like that. So while that's thinking, any other questions? Yes?
Is this part of Blackboard, or is this an add-on that the college has to buy? How does that work?
So the website piece doesn't have anything to do with what happens in your online LMS. This is just for your public-facing website, and it's something that we offer, and colleges have to purchase. The part that goes inside the LMS, I'll be doing a session on at 11:10, and that's also something that you purchase, but they're two separate licenses. So it can be included in it, yes, but it is a separate license.
So these are licenses that the college has to get.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Scott, if you want to talk about
They are. Excuse me, the Ally for Learn, which we're going to be discussing and presenting at 11:10. There's a lot of interest, and at the CUNY system, they're looking at moving forward with that and offering that to all the schools. We're not quite there yet. They've asked that we, kind of spend some time in front of the team, showing it to the different schools. The Ally for Web, every school can make their own choice at this juncture. You have a public-facing website, right? First time you have maybe new prospects of students or saying, oh, I wonder, tell me about Lehman, tell me about Hostess, tell me, they come in there and English is not their primary language, or they come in and they have some level of an accessibility need. This helps make their introduction to you a little bit better, right? Because the alternative formats, and you as a group have the knowledge of the issues, and then soon down the road, it's going to interact with your content management system so that as you upload or add content, it will, on its way, say, here's some gentle guidance of improvements.
Okay, so while we were chatting about that, I created the translated version, and I'm just waiting for Word to open. How much of our lives has been spent waiting for Word to open? Yeah, I'm sorry, there were other questions?
I want to know how much, like, usability testing you've done. Like, you mentioned the Spanish, like, you checked the Spanish because you know, but, like, electronic braille seems very specific.
Mhm.
I was wondering how much usability testing you've actually used with people who would use this product.
So we actually work with a bunch of partners. A third-party entity does our validation on this environment, so they do the testing. We also work with a lot of schools that have implemented the solution that have blind staff on their campus that have played with it and have pulled up those sessions, and they've all had really positive things to say. So we do a lot of validation and a lot of testing, both internally and externally, and with our partners institutions to, you know, best meet the need. So if an end user has an embosser attached to their machine, the electronic braille version is the one that they would choose, and that I've heard really good things about. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
It's very, very high performance, and from a compliance perspective. I mean, we could roll it out if it wasn't, because it's heavily in use, and yeah.
Well, I'm just curious because, like I said, like electronic braille again is very specific, so I'm worried that like if one student used one version of an electronic braille machine and somebody else used a different version, if there was overlap in the file, or if each used like that's. I've never used electronic braille.
Yeah, I'll just kind of give you the quick
Okay.
answer, which is the electronic braille has been part of this solution for more than 2 or 3 years, and it has really evolved to it works extremely well, very consistent. The language translations is newer, works great. It's just hasn't, I guess, lived in the availability as long, but it's still very, you know, you can see it's pretty impressive.
So you made 2 great quotes.
Well, thank you.
One over there, but these
Yeah.
2 were important. One was accessibility is a marathon, and I completely agree with
Yeah.
that. I also agree it's a sprint as well. It's a sprint and a marathon.
Right.
It's both. And I agree that translation is an art. And I believe heading forward with offering and solutions to these professors, adjunct professors, by using alternative formats like you mentioned, it's a great way to tailor it to their own way of teaching.
Right.
Of course. Going back to that quote you said, translation is an art. Are you guys experimenting on maybe changing the context or allowing teachers to change the context? So like, let's say if there's a file that says homework, they can change it to something more joyful. Since we're all heading to a more gamified experience, I feel that maybe that could be an important experiment maybe in one of your brainstorming sessions, since you guys are focusing on accessibility throughout all platforms. Or are you guys just focusing on providing alternative templates?
So the alternative formats don't seek to change the content that we're making more accessible, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One is copyright.
Okay,
You don't want to be messing with somebody's intellectual property.
That-
The second is how would you determine that the change is valid without consulting somebody? Like a machine learning algorithm can't do that. So what's left then is for the instructor who uploads, or whoever's uploading documents on the website, whether it's an administrator, is to title it appropriately. So if you don't want it to say homework, you put the word that is more joyful.
Awesome.
Whatever it is that you want to give the category to that content that you're uploading, that's where you have the creative freedom. Just like the originals that get uploaded, we don't ever inject anything into the originals. It's not until the alternative formats are created that they are in different formats, right?
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
there's some reasons for why we don't put our little
Now,
hands.
copyright and intellectual property,
Yeah.
that all makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But it's a good question, right? I think I saw more hands, yes.
Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning something about closed captions for video.
Right.
Now, do you have any resources that can do this automatically?
So right now what we're telling folks is that YouTube's closed captioning is a good place to start.
They're very accurate.
Yeah, they're not bad, right? What we're working on is even a higher level of accuracy before we release that into the product. So for now, YouTube's closed captioning is the way to go, and then you can download that transcript and make the changes that you need to if it's not 100% perfect. It's still a little bit more work for the end user, whether it be a faculty member, whoever's uploading that video, but it's better than not having it at all, right?
Yeah.
So it's a place to start. But long-term for us is a commitment to be able to provide that in a better fashion.
Yeah, to supplement that, the audio, we're at like 96, 97% accuracy, right, when we create those things. Even the YouTube, the closed captioning is between 75 and 80%, not good enough.
Right.
So we are looking at other technologies and enhancing the existing
Read Speaker
technologies.
is the technology that
Yeah.
we're looking at.
For
partnering
that's
with.
Read Speaker, right? But for the closed captioning, we haven't found the technology that's above 90% accuracy.
They also do transcriptions,
Right.
which is good too.
Yeah, and we have again, we're rolling out all of that, but not until the technology has met the compliance requirements. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So I think we're up against time, and I know there's probably somebody else in this room. Are there any other questions? I'll be at that little desk over there until my session at 11:10. If you think of something you're just burning to know, I'm around. Thank you, everybody, for your time.